is. Put your pinky razor to the moon. Hey, NAMI students, let's going to finish up notes today. So I'm going to take you on through the rest of the notes. So this will finish up this chapter. We're going to take a test at the end of the week and move on to other things after spring break, hopefully. So levels of consciousness, we're mainly talking about sleep at the start here. And I'm going to show you a quick little video on that. Slow wave sleep is just what it says. Slow frequency, high voltage, which seems like that's a little backwards, but that's what slow wave sleep is. REMs, when you dream, it's rapid eye movement. And then we also have this thing called an altered state of consciousness, where anesthetic drugs, I talked a little bit about barbiturates and amphetamines and things like that can affect this disease, injury, comas, or an altered state of consciousness. All right. So let me show you a quick video about the levels of sleep here real quick. Okay. And again, apologize for the echo. There'll be a little echo in here probably. Maybe. There we go.
Welcome to Flatiron School. This is where you learn how the future works, where the whole point of education is to get you a job and a career.
Welcome to 2-Minute Neuroscience, where I explain neuroscience topics in 2 minutes or less. In this installment, I will discuss the stages of sleep. Sleep stages are defined based on the measurement of electrical activity in the brain using an electroencephalogram, or EEG. An EEG represents fluctuations in brain electrical activity in voltage as a waveform of variable frequency and amplitude. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine classifies sleep as consisting of 4 stages. The first 2 stages involve light sleep. When someone begins to fall asleep, they enter stage 1, during which an EEG records low amplitude waves of mixed but mostly high frequencies. Next, the person enters stage 2 sleep. This is characterized by the presence of phenomena on an EEG known as sleep spindles and K-complexes. Sleep spindles are trains of high-frequency waves. The K-complex involves a biphasic wave that stands out from the rest of the EEG. Stage 3 sleep is also known as slow-wave sleep, or deep sleep. In stage 3, delta waves, which are low-frequency, high-amplitude waves, make up at least 20% of brain activity. Stage 3 sleep is thought to be especially important to overall restfulness. Next, the sleeper passes rapidly back through stage 2 and stage 1 before entering rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. In REM sleep, EEG activity resembles what's seen in stage 1, or restful waking. During REM sleep, the muscles are completely relaxed and limp, but the eyes are moving rapidly. This is the time of sleep when our most vivid dreams are likely to occur. After REM sleep, the person will sometimes awaken briefly, but then will move through the sleep stages again in order. Most people will repeat this cycle 4 to 5 times a night, with each cycle lasting about 90 to 110 minutes.
Okay, so you can see there how, we go back and forth between REM sleep, slow wave sleep, and you go in and out of those. And really, if you talk to sleep experts and people that study this, they'll say you should get into several of those.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct, but it's wordy and hard to read. It undermines the...
Sorry about that. Okay, so that's basically sleep, which is kind of crazy stuff. And I know there's a lot of studies being out there done about, what are dreams? Are dreams important to us? Why do sometimes we remember dreams, sometimes we don't? Good question. The problem with dreaming is the current theory is we're taking lots of different fragments of information we've stored, and our brain tries to make sense out of them. And a lot of times there's probably no sense to be made. So that's why our dreams a lot of times don't make sense. All right. I'd like to spend a little more time on that, but we need to move on. So, and I'll put notes online. Eastern cultures have been doing yoga, meditation for years. Yoga is an interesting because it's an expanded level of consciousness but yet it has a high degree of relaxation and alertness. And you can stay in that for extended periods of time. I always laugh because I always think of Ace Ventura and how he goes out of his body and floats through the air. And you probably remember that scene from that movie. But, yoga is a really good for your mind, they say. And you can watch that video. I'll put it online and you can watch it and see what you think too. Okay. The last thing I kind of want to touch on, one of the last major activities the cerebrum does is memory. Memory is one of those major mental activities, and it was discovered actually in 1920 by a guy named Dr. Penfield, who, if he would have done this today, probably would have had a malpractice suit against him. But he took epileptic patients he was actually doing surgery on, and he took a electrical current and he kind of moved it around, and people would start recalling information from their past. So that's when we figured out that long-term memory is a physical thing that's done, that's placed in the brain. It's not just some conceptual thing. We store memories everywhere: temporal, parietal, occipital, frontal lobes. They're just all over the place. So, where people store precise information is going to vary from person to person. Okay. And how we do this, and I'll see if I can simplify this a little bit so it makes sense, is we store memories in something called an engram. An engram is a particular circuit that goes around in your brain, and we literally store it in that physical location. We talked about the difference between long-term storage, the library, and memory, the recall. And here's my easiest way to describe memory. Think of a wood burner and how you trace a pattern in a piece of wood and you burn it in there. And if I keep going through that over and over and over, it gets burned deeper and deeper and deeper into the wood, and it shows up more. And I always think of memories like that. If I keep going back to that same memory and I keep burning it into I keep going back to that electrical circuit, that engram over and over and over again, I'm going to have an easier time recalling it in the future. So some things come easy to us because that engram's so embedded in our brain. Other stuff may have just a little light touch to them because we didn't, spend that much time remembering that information. So another great video on that. Again, not going to take the time to go over that just for simplicity's sakes. And the limbic system plays a big role in that. We talked about the hippocampus and how emotion sometimes gets tied with the memory. I have an example there. Emotional experiences affect long-term storage, just like a lot of women can recall details about their wedding gowns, about their wedding or birth of a child or some major event that happens to you because it's emotional. The limbic system is really good at tagging memories with emotion. Okay, that's great if it's good memories. Maybe not so good if it's a bad memory. So kind of keep that in mind as we kind of continue on. Okay, and then the last thing, and then we're pretty much going to be done with notes. Is language. I talked a little bit about this the other day. Language is really difficult, especially if we're trying to teach a new language to someone, because the problem is speech center is in the frontal, parietal, and temporal lobes. Where we learn how to write a language is different than when we speak it. Speaking's different than when we see it and read it. And then we had to bring all these things together. What we found, and this really doesn't have anything to do with a whole lot unless you have an injury, is 90% of people put language in the left hemisphere. Only about 10% do put things on the right, which has no significance unless you have a severe injury. If you remember, I showed you a video of Gabby Gifford and how she had, got shot in the head, and unfortunately it was on the left side, so she had a lot of hard time with speech. There is a condition called emphasitis, and I've taught this for years, and then I had an aunt that had this. Really frustrating. They can hear your words, they understand your words, they just can't speak any language, so they get kind of trapped in their body. My aunt had a stroke in that particular area, and she had to communicate through a keyboard. So it was very frustrating to her because she knew what she wanted to say. She just couldn't get stuff out and say it, which is very frustrating. So That's a problem in the language center. Okay, I think I have a picture of that. I'll show you real quick. There's your picture. It's just in this little red area right here. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that's a lot of notes. We're going to have a Google form test. I'll have a Kahoot game I'll put on. That's a lot of information. I want to get this test in before spring break, and then after spring break, we just got a little bit about the heart and do our CPR and first aid training, and do our fetal pig autopsy, and that'll be about it. So we're going to wrap things up pretty quick. All right. Hey, as always, if you have questions, shoot me an email. That's what I'm here for. All right. Have a great day, and hopefully that makes sense. See ya. Bye.